I'm just fucking jacked.
Of the dad bod?
Yeah, I'm just ripped out of my mind. So this dad bod just puts other dad bods to shame.
I like it. I told you this before. We should be called the Loaded Dad Bod podcast. With that, DJ, can you make that bottle make a noise? Oh, nice. Let's get loaded. And with that again, no intro music, the way DJ likes it the best. So welcome to the Loaded Box podcast.
Where we never finish first because we finish last. I swear, if we don't get back to an intro, I'm going to quit the podcast.
DJ is threatened to quit the podcast if we don't get an intro. I swear to God, dude, we're trying it. I like the chaos, though, of just never knowing like what we're going to say, when we're going to start. I like the unorganized feel that it brings to me.
Brings to you. I don't like it. I like to have music. I like to be able to bop my head, and it really gets me ready for a podcast. Like, now I'm not into it. Like, you lost me at hello.
Especially now that the podcasts are also on YouTube. If you haven't checked them out there, check them out. If it's like a good song, you're going to catch both DJ and I just like doing some sort of like dad dance. Yeah. The dad dance.
It's called bopping.
Yeah, bopping. Well, hey, I tell you what, we are back. Thank you once again to the new listeners for checking us out. For the old, previous, experienced listeners for continuing to enjoy us. As always, it's the midweek podcast during the NFL season, so we are doing our NFL Week 3 preview podcast. We're talking daily fantasy sports bargains, stacks, picks, listener fantasy football questions, against the spread gambling picks, which, by the way, I mean, we talked about this a little bit during our Week 2 Instant Reactions podcast. DJ, you've been on fire, and you're coming back with more against the spread picks today. Are you confident this week?
You know, I can't help but be confident right now at every point. So I'm just going to come in, big dick, hanging low. Let's go. Ready to roll.
Big dick, hanging low. Let's go. That's another nice slogan for the podcast. Well, before we get to the ATS picks, let's talk daily fantasy sports. Do you want me to kick it off with my stack of the week?
Go for it.
All right, stack of the week. So it's a little different than what I would normally do because my stack of the week this week is the Minnesota Vikings combo, Kirk Cousins and Adam Thielen. Cousins is 8,600, Thielen is 8,200. This, to my recollection, is the most expensive stack that I've ever done. But I'm
mostest?
What'd you say?
The mostest expensive?
The mostest expensive. That's hard to say. I didn't say that.
Yeah, you kind of did.
Rewind the tape.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but I'm not a huge fan of the bargain plays at quarterback this week, so I'm going to go a little bit more expensive with my stack of the week. I'm going to help you find a bargain play later, though, that's going to make up for this. But you look at Cousins, 20 points week 1, 34 last week. Bills gave up, that's who the Vikings play, by the way, this week. Bills gave up 21 to Flacco, 23 to Rivers. And I'm thinking that for Cousins, his floor has got to be 20, but I think he could easily hit that 30 mark again. For wide receiver, I'm going to give Thielen the lean over Diggs just because I think any of those guys could be the guy either week. So I'm saving a whole whopping $100 by taking Thielen. And with that, DJ's got his hand up. He's being polite. He has a question for me.
Do you think that like they could go up 3 touchdowns, 2 of them be rushing touchdowns and maybe 1 passing, and then they just kind of quit throwing it in the air and then he doesn't even play in the fourth quarter? Does that worry you because the Bills fucking suck?
Why I would say no to that is because it's like a 16 or a 17-point spread, so you might be onto something there. But I swear, whenever we see like these huge spreads, like how often do they actually like come to fruition though? And you're not going to pull your starter unless you're up by what, like 28 probably in the last quarter, 21 to 28.
I prefer to have my quarterback in a game that I think is going to be a back and forth game.
I typically would, and I'm interested to see who you have at quarterback this week. So do you just want to jump right into your quarterback?
Let's jump into it. So mine's not a bargain because, I don't know, it was a weird quarterback week. I was looking on the sheet for mine, but I actually wrote mine old school on a piece of paper today.
I love it.
So I went with, and I haven't gone, I've vehemently went against this guy. Well, not as strong as I've gone against Deshaun Watson, but he's been a second like QB I've been digging on coming into the season. I'm going Jimmy G, $7,400 at KC. Now, it seems like a high price for how bad he's been playing, but I feel like FanDuel is cranking that up for a reason, and I dug a little deeper. They're playing against Kansas City. Kansas City has played great on offense.
On offense, yep.
But with high-scoring games come responsibility. And both sides end up scoring a lot of points on this. So Jimmy G is going against a secondary that just hasn't been good, a defense that's not that great. Kansas City has given up 10 passing touchdowns in 2 games so far. That's the most in the NFL. I like Jimmy G going into this. I think people are going to stay away from him. They think that $7,400 is too high price. And I think FanDuel is trying to push you away from that guy. I say play him right now.
I don't mind that whatsoever. I don't remember what the over-under is on that game, but I feel like it's pretty high because, yeah, the Chiefs are one of the highest scoring teams in the league right now. And they really haven't even got their running game going. It's all been Mahomes with 10 touchdowns through the 2 weeks. And like you said, yeah, they're giving it up through the air right now. I mean, Rivers had a huge day against them. Steelers and Roethlisberger had a huge day against them. So I'm not totally anti that. I actually have, and I feel like you saying this out loud. Like, I can't believe I'm saying this out loud. But if you want a bargain play at quarterback this week, look no further than DJ's boy, Mitchell Trubisky. He's only 6,500 and he's at Arizona. He's only scored between like 10 to 15 points each of the first 2 weeks. But Arizona has allowed 20 to both Alex Smith and Jared Goff. I'm literally expecting the same for Trubisky. So I really like Keenum. Like, I like a more expensive quarterback this week, the way it played out. But if you want to go bargain, I wouldn't say Garoppolo's a bargain. He's more of that mid-tier. I don't mind that play. But if you wanted to go to a bargain play, I like Trubisky.
The one thing I actually looked into, and I know you're going to talk about it later, but I looked into this Bears versus this Cardinals matchup, and I did like it. But Cardinals are playing really good against the pass this year so far, I guess against receivers at this point. So I kind of took a step back. It's at Arizona.
They got to come out of their funk sometime.
Yeah, and so it's not a funk, but their secondary has actually been playing pretty well. So I think it's going to be more of a Jordan Howard game than it is.
They're just always on the field.
Correct.
They're just always on the field.
Yeah.
Let me jump right into my running back then, because that stays on to what you were talking about. Because with my running back, I'm staying on that Bears kick, going up against the weak opponent in the Cardinals. I like Howard. He's $7,400. I think this is the week where he cracks 100 yards, and he's going to find the end zone. We saw Tariq Cohen get banged up a little bit on Monday night. So even if he plays, maybe his workload decreases a little bit. Howard gets a little bit more work through the ground. They've been throwing him the ball a little bit more. I actually, if like a mid-tier guy, I really like Jordan Howard. I think he's finally going to break out.
I want to get banged up a little bit too by a bunch of NFL players.
I don't get why you would even say that.
Well, I don't know. You said banged up. It made me chuckle because I got a perverted head. All right, Jesus Christ.
All right, what do you like at running back?
I like Jordan Howard. I agree with that. And my running backs here, I'm going, and I never thought I'd say this, but I'm going to go with Alex Collins. You're getting a hell of a bargain here. 6,300. He's played against Denver. Denver right now, through 2 games, is giving up 157 yards per game. That's second most. And Ravens want to run the ball. That's what they want to do. They want to play defense. They want to run the ball. They realized after week 1 that they tried to do Joe Flacco stuff in week 2, and he just, turned to Joe Suck. I don't know.
Like how you call
it. I have
Joe.
nothing good there.
They call it Joe Flacco stuff.
Yeah, he did Joe Flacco stuff to himself, and now it's not going the way it's Joe Flacco. He's not good. He's basically a better armed Eli Manning. He stinks. But they're going to want to run the ball. They're going to want to play defense. It's going to be a Big Ten game. And I'm actually going to talk this game in a little while as well on the other side of the things. Once I flip this page over.
Nice. All right. Well, I also, on top of my Howard pick, I do have one bargain play I wanted to talk about at running back. And I actually thought I was stealing this guy from you as well. Because I'm not sure how this guy is still this cheap after putting up, in week 1, 16 points, in week 2, 22 points. Chris Thompson is only 6,500 versus Green Bay. You know that the Packers linebackers still struggle in coverage. Thompson has literally become the go-to pass catcher for that team. And I see the Redskins playing from behind in this one. So I see less Adrian Peterson, more Chris Thompson. And they're going to utilize him as a receiver like they did last week when he had like 13 catches. So if you're doing FanDuel, which is where we kind of base the prices off of, you're getting that half point per reception. Chris Thompson at 6,500 is a steal. I'd throw him in the flex.
I don't like it.
Why?
Dalvin Cook had 3 catches against the Packers last week. The one linebacker he did beat was almost never on the field. They're usually running like 6 cornerbacks, so usually there's a cornerback or Blake Martinez, who is a good coverage linebacker, covering him. I just think maybe he'll be good. Yeah, probably with the PPR when they're down like 40 to 20.
There you go.
Like that, and he's getting like 10 receptions trying to move down the field in the third, fourth quarter because they're just checking it down to him, and it's Alex Smith. I don't know.
That's the thing,
I guess
though.
you have to purely rely on, because the Packers, they stuffed the run last week against the
They
Vikings.
did, yeah.
They stuffed it. They dominated. I think they had like 60 yards rushing.
Yep.
But so you have to purely rely on the fact that he's going to catch the ball a ton, and that makes me a little bit more nervous.
The thing is, like, you look at Thompson's stat line from that last game, and you're like, he didn't even do all that well. What'd I say? He had like 4 carries for a yard or something just terrible. But yeah, then he gets 13 catches for like 100 and some yards, and in FanDuel he puts up 20 some points. Like, that could easily be how they do it again. They only scored 9 points in that game, and a running back put up 20 some points. That's hard to do. And I could see them easily doing that against the Packers again, because like you led on to with one of your ATS picks, I'm going to talk about the Packers in a little bit. And I
Just talking about it.
I think the Redskins are going to be playing from behind, and I think that bodes well for Chris Thompson.
Yeah. I guess I don't know. My verdict isn't out on these linebackers because they really only have one guy right now, so they're using a lot of secondary guys. So I don't no verdict on covering the running back yet for me.
Chris Thompson's your boy too.
Yep.
So I gotta
also a
ask.
Packers fan.
I have to ask. We hang out, like, not as much anymore because you live farther away than I do.
America.
But when we hang out, you don't have these issues with like your throat and these burps and these moments of silence where you need to like and like burp this stuff. I've talked to you about this before. Why does it happen every time when you start to talk when we podcast? Like, what is that?
What do you mean? I'm drinking beer. I'm burping. It's not a big deal.
A lot of the times when we hang out, you're drinking and you never do that. Like, I feel
There's no chance. I definitely do that.
I feel like the weight of your headphones put like a little bit more pressure like on your esophagus, and it like makes you need to clear your throat. I don't know what else it could be. There's something wrong with you. You need to go to the doctor ASAP.
You don't even know what an esophagus is, asshole.
It's in your asshole?
Yeah, that's exactly where it is.
All right, that's enough about your freaking
asshole.
your terrible throat.
Let's talk about my asshole.
What? We've done that in the podcast before too.
Oh, yeah.
Let's
talk about that again.
No.
It's really making its way back in my life again.
Tell you, man.
Butthole.
Ass baths. You need ass baths.
Yeah.
Wide receivers. Let's talk about wide receivers instead.
All right, so I saw some options there, but after, again, diving into it a little bit, doing a little research, the guy I chose for my bargain wide receiver this week is my boy, Nelson Aguilar. I'll probably choose him like 54 times this year. 6,600 versus Indianapolis. Let me say this. My boy, my number 2 ranked fantasy quarterback coming into the year, Carson Wentz, is back.
Guess who's back?
Aguilar is his number 1 wide receiver. Maybe not his number 1 target, but he's his number 1 wide receiver.
Yep.
And he's playing against the Colts team who now has Andrew Luck back. And I expect some points. I expect some points to be coming out of this game. I don't think they're going to hold back Wentz. I think they're going to let him come out firing because they've had to deal with Nick Foles. They're not going to really have any running backs besides Clement, it seems like, in this game. So I think they're going to come out throwing the ball, and I think they're going to have to because I think Andrew Luck's going to do his thing.
I like Aguilar this week. I'm with you on that one. He's not one of the guys I was going to target, but you'll see in one of our listener questions that I'm with you on Aguilar on this week. Wide receivers for me this week, it's a bargain week for me outside of taking one of the Vikings guys. I say you take one of those, and then I've got 3 bargain plays at wide receiver. I like your boy, Allen Robinson, 6,500 at Arizona. I talked about Howard. I talked about Trubisky already. Same goes for Robinson. I like Kenny Stills, 6,400 versus Oakland. Stills had that huge week 1. Last week, the pass game didn't really do all that much. I see them bouncing back against the Raiders secondary that's a little bit weak against speed at receiver. And my last and favorite bargain receiver, you might see this one coming if you've heard our podcast recently. I'm calling a breakout week. Sammy Watkins, only 6,200 versus San Francisco. It's not always going to be Tyreek Hill, and it's not always going to be Travis Kelce. Watkins had that silent 6-catch, 100-yard game last week. I think he flirts with 100 again. I think he gets a touchdown this week, 6,200. That's my bargain play of the week.
I feel like this is deja vu because I remember last year when Sammy Watkins shrunk when he got sent from the Bills to the Rams and he got smaller. I specifically remember you last year saying, I'm calling a breakout year week for Sammy Watkins 2 or 3 times, I think, maybe. And it ended up with like 32 yards and like 1 catch or something like that, or 2 catches or something like that. Never good. So I imagine that's not going to be a good week for Sammy Watkins.
I got that clunker out of the way last week with Jamison Crowder. I'm back this week.
That's my number 1. Number 2, Allen Robinson is a guy I severely considered, but as I told you guys, I deep dove into this. He is being covered by Patrick Peterson. It's not like he's still not one of the best cornerbacks in the league. I'd actually favor Anthony Miller in that. That guy can ball.
And he'd be even a bigger bargain.
Ball.
Yeah.
What?
I don't know his price point, but I'm sure he'd be even a bigger bargain.
Yeah. I almost prefer him. I do love Allen Robinson. He's been a target monster, and he's going to continue. I think this is the game that the targets go down a little bit, but he will continue to get, what do you have, like 1,000 catches last night?
It seemed that way. Yeah, it seemed that way.
It was, 10, 11 catches? I think, it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Or like 8 catches. I don't know. It was constantly targeting him.
Yeah.
And then, last but not least, you don't have a flex, do you?
My flex preference was Chris Thompson.
So my flex here was Kenny Stills.
Oh, for real?
6,400, yeah, versus Oakland. And I basically said, Oakland secondary stinks, and Stills is Stills' favorite target.
Stills is Stills. I like it.
Yeah, I did a little rhyme for you because I thought you'd like that one after that big week 1 and that, I don't know, that could be another game where it's like 60, 70 points.
I still don't have a great feel on the Dolphins this year. They're not a quality 2-0 team by any means, but they haven't got the run game going. And the pass game looked okay that first week, but that first week was just so chaotic that I don't have a feel on them yet.
You can't even count that first week.
No. Do you have a tight end in mind this week, or are you punting on that position again?
No, I'd rather have a punter.
Nice. Well,
nice job, you fucking kicker.
What's that?
Oh, no, you didn't watch Hard Knocks. That's like the best line of all time. It's like the most popular line on like Twitter. You don't have It's like the first year you haven't watched Hard Knocks.
Yeah, in like a decade. I missed it terribly.
Greg Williams. Was it Greg Williams? Or was it the offensive coordinator, Todd Haley? I can't remember. It was one of the two for the Browns. Gonzalez, of course, who just
the kicker,
lost his job, made a field goal in the preseason game, and it was a big field goal, and he's coming out the field. He's like, "Nice job, you fucking kicker!" But he was like serious about it because he actually made the field goal.
Nice.
It was great.
I like how the coaches don't even give them respect, and FanDuel has no respect for them anymore. They took kickers off of their thing and put in the
Todd Haley.
Gotcha. Well, then you can comment on my tight end because it's right up your alley. Because I've got a tight end who's scoring 2 touchdowns this week.
Tight end right up my alley. You fucking
bingo. He's $6,200, which is $1,300 cheaper than a guy like Travis Kelce. And it is your boy Jimmy Graham. He's $6,200. He hasn't scored in the first 2 weeks. He got that touchdown taken away last week. Phantom holding. I can agree with that. They're going to utilize him to his full potential this week in the red zone. I'm calling 2 touchdowns. You saw the Redskins defense give up a touchdown to Eric Ebron last week. They played, and then the week before that, they played Arizona, basically an FCS school at this point, so I don't even count that one. But now they're going to go up against a top-level tight end with one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I'm going to splurge a little bit on Jimmy Graham this week. I'm thinking big things out of him.
Don't do any splurging on Jimmy Graham, please. I don't want you to do any of that on my tight end.
He does have a penis head.
I don't want you splurging on my tight end, all right?
Do you have any thoughts on Jimmy Graham? You're the resident Packers fan.
I mean, he was going to have a big week last week. Should have had that touchdown, would have won the game, essentially. Lots of things would have won that game. That would have fake holding call that never actually happened.
There it is.
I just don't know. There it was. Maybe.
Something wrong with you.
We'll see. We'll see how if Rodgers finally starts incorporating him in the red zone. It takes him a little while to get on the same page as new tight ends.
Yep, this is the breakout week. 2 touchdowns, calling it now. Before we talk about our against the spread picks, where DJ's been just like red hot. I can't even describe it any other way. Like he's a bottle of Frank's Red Hot at this point. If you're watching on YouTube, do you see all the DJ's stuff in the background? That's a bunch of sports memorabilia. And you know where you need to go to get yours? You need to head to pristineauction.com today. They've got daily auctions, packed with tons of stuff for the man cave, just like DJ. They guarantee their items' authenticity. Certificates of authentication come with every item, only from the trusted sources. It's more affordable than you think. Head to pristineauction.com today. When you register, there's a How Did You Hear About Us section. Make sure you say the Loaded Box Podcast. But go on there. They've got like week-long options, daily auctions. Go to one of those. It's free to bid. You don't need to put any money down. You don't pay if you don't win. You got to head there today, pristineauction.com. DJ, I am excited for this next segment because honestly, since we've been doing this podcast, this is the hottest any of us have ever been. Last week, you once again went 3-0, added another plus 8 units to your record. And I'm not even counting your bonus picks. If you count your bonus picks, you would have went 5-0, bringing your year-to-date total to 8-0. But with the picks we're tracking, you're 6-0 plus 18 units, whereas I went 2-1 again last week, second straight week, but I am 4-2 for the year plus 1 unit overall. So DJ, you're the hot hand, just like the Denver's running back situation. We're going to feed the hot hand here. I want you to lead it off with your first pick.
Is 100% good when you're doing gambling?
I mean, all you have to do is be above 53% statistically if you bet the same amount every single time, and you should be okay. 100% is just slightly above that, so I think you're doing okay.
So never losing is good. All right. So let's look you guys up. I went 3 games the last time. I went, or 2 times like the beginning, first week. I went 5 games last week, gave you guys 5 winners. You know what? I'm going to give you guys 3 games and 3 bonus picks this year. And
this
a little something sprinkled on top of that, because I know Ben asked for 7. I'm gonna leave it up for interpretation. So I'm gonna stay the course. The first, all offseason I was saying fade these two teams. How much I like those other teams. So I'm gonna stay the course on I've bet the same 3 teams the first 2 weeks that have made me go 6-0.
Nice.
You know what teams those are?
I do. Do the listeners?
Do the listeners know? Those teams have been the Browns, then fade the Niners, and fade the Texans. So I said do it for 3 weeks. This is the 3rd week. I'm not going to back off it now. So, number 1, I'm going Cleveland. Catching 3 points on Thursday Night Football.
Oh, yeah, versus the Jets. Jets.
At home versus the Jets. Exactly. You got Sam Darnold coming into town. But guess whose defense is just unstoppable right now? I mean, they should have beat the Saints. They couldn't do shit against Cleveland the entire game. That Cleveland defense, I tell you what, Jaws, that Cleveland defense is hungry. They're good. And you know who else is hungry? The city of Cleveland. They need that win. They want to open up those Bud Light coolers. They're getting their first win. They're going to win by 8 points. I'm going 5 units on the Cleveland Browns.
All right.
Winning their first game.
I don't want to say that you're getting ahead of yourself because obviously you're on fire. But 5 units on a Thursday night play is little risky.
That's why I'm more confident because of how good their defense is playing.
Thursday night games are like the great, like the biggest shit show. Like usually, or it might be early enough in the season right now where like the fatigue hasn't quite set in. But typically on a Thursday night, if I have a feeling for a team, if I went the other way on it, I'd probably be hitting like 90%. So I'm not going to even comment on a Thursday night game.
I think defense takes over in a Thursday night game, and I expect like if you're playing a defense this week, pick up the Browns defense if you can, if they're on the waiver wire, and put them in because they're going to score you some points by themselves. Because it's usually the offenses that struggle.
All right, so your first play is a 5-unit play on the Cleveland Browns.
Yep.
All right.
Next, I'm going to go.
Wait, why don't I get to go?
Oh, sorry.
Man, you're just so on fire, you don't even give a shit.
I just want to take it over. I forgot that you even got to make picks.
And the thing is, I'm 4-2, which isn't bad.
Suck, bro.
All right, I've got Denver +5 at Baltimore. You've got Denver with 2 close wins, and then you've got Baltimore who beat down Nathan Little Peterman, your guy, before losing by 1 point to Cincinnati. Not only do I think the Broncos are the better team, but I'm getting nearly a touchdown in what I think is going to end up being a close game. Baltimore right now is second in the NFL in yards allowed per game. And while I think their defense is okay, I think that stat is a little bit of a lie because they played Buffalo. And then they allowed a 4-touchdown game to Andy Dalton. So tell me who they really are. Denver is 4th in the league in yards per game, so they've been getting it done. Baltimore may have their hands full. Keenum and Emmanuel Sanders have been really good. What?
Keenum and Emmanuel Sanders.
They have
Fucking
been.
Keenum.
They
Yeah,
have
he
been.
tore him
I
up
told
this week.
everybody to draft Emmanuel Sanders, and it's turned out pretty well so far. And
Keenum was
Philip
garbage.
Lindsay, who no one knew going into this, has nearly 200 rushing yards on the season on like 30 carries. So
Mhm.
I'm not going as far as predicting like an outright win here, but I'm going to take the 5 points, and I'm going to put 2 units on it.
I mean, I wouldn't touch that game. I don't like the east to west or west to east thing going on there. I will touch that game, but not the spread. Spread wise, I'll get to that later. But there's no way I'm touching that. That one seems. I mean, both those teams to me stink in general. So I'm not going to touch 2 stinky teams like this that I don't know where they're at 3 weeks into the season.
Fair enough. Go on with your second one.
All right, second pick. I'm fading the Niners. Kansas City. Getting San Francisco at home, -5 this week. Patrick Mahomes is going to hot. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, so I'm probably favoring whatever the over is in that game. Don't really care what it is. I think there's going to be a lot of points. But when it comes down to it, I think at this point, Mahomes is a little bit better. San Francisco's defense is, I mean, these are 2 bad defenses, is a little worse. But I think overall, offensively, Kansas City has more weapons at the running back, at the tight end, at the wide receiver position than what Garoppolo has. I mean, he's struggling a little bit. I mean, he's gonna bust out, but he doesn't have the weapons to keep up. It's gonna get out of hand. I think after week 3, Patrick Mahomes. I'm on this 3-week theory. I think Mahomes will have a big week this week, and then his production will fall off the radar significantly. Not off the radar, but fall significantly. So I'm going to fade Mahomes and probably the Chiefs after week 3. I might start making that my next fading for the next 3 weeks.
I like how you have your picks planned, almost like you're planning like a meal.
It worked, didn't it?
So far.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're predicting big things out of Sammy Watkins.
Oh,
so
sorry, but I'm going 2 units on that one. Not as confident.
Okay, 2 units on the Chiefs, and what was the spread on that one?
Chiefs are -5.
Yeah,
According
I don't
to me
mind
this
that.
morning.
It's not one of my picks. I'm not going to make a play on it. If I had to, I would be on your side because I think the 49ers look like a team that are going to be in a lot of close games this year. And especially against the Chiefs, who've looked, I don't want to call them unstoppable on offense, but pretty damn good on offense. I think it would be a close game. So I'd take the team with the points. I like that one. My next play here is Green Bay by a field goal at Washington. The last game I talked about believing that I'm getting a better team while getting points. While I'm not going to get points in this game, I think I'm getting the far superior team who only has to win by less than a touchdown at this point. A field goal is still a push. I'm going to put 0 stock in that Washington's first win. It came against Arizona. Talked about it on our last preview pod or our last reactions pod. They crossed the 50-yard line one time. I'm not scared against them. And then they come back next week and play the Colts and only scored 9 points. It's a small sample size, but I say that the Redskins are probably at their best when they can run. You hit on it earlier. Packers allowed Dalvin Cook and Latavius Murray about 60 yards on the ground, so they stopped the run. Now you've got the Packers and Rodgers, who only scored 1 offensive touchdowns against a really good Vikings defense last week. I'd be willing to bet that didn't really sit that well at practice with Rodgers. He takes that shit pretty seriously. I think they come around and they push around. They come out, they push around the Redskins. It's my biggest play of the week. I'm putting 3 units on it, but I really like the Packers here.
You were taking my advice from last week. I told everybody you're going to realize how bad the Redskins are once the Colts come in and beat them and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So now you're jumping on that train. You're a week behind, which is fine. You know, I am just ahead of the game right now. It takes a little bit for like you amateurs to catch up. It is what it is. I like the bet. We'll get back to it. On to me. Ready?
Shoot it.
We got my third fade. It's the Houston Texans. I'm taking the Giants +6 at Houston. That's a ballsy pick. It's a ballsy pick.
That is a ballsy pick.
Giants look like shit. Their offensive line couldn't block anything.
Oh.
Houston doesn't look good.
Yeah. So Eli hasn't looked good by any means, but man, anytime like he would have a chance to look good, there was pressure in his face against the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
They never had a chance in that game.
So here's my theory going into this game here. Number 1, just fade Houston. Number 2, this feels like the game that Eli kind of goes off with Odell, and Saquon can run. Look, the Houston's not getting any pressure. Like, their defensive line, everybody has just been bad. J.J. Watt is virtually non-existent, right, at this point?
Yeah. I haven't heard his name yet this year.
He's kind of just falling apart. I think he just kind of fell apart, and now he's just not who he was. And Houston's one of the worst against the run. I think they're one of the worst 3 in yards given up this year. This is the game that Saquon goes off. They're not getting any pressure, so the offensive line kind of benefits from the struggling defensive line of Houston. Eli is going to be out there. Evan Ingram's going to be catching balls. Saquon's going to be running all over the place. This feels like a game that the Giants win here, and their defense has been playing really well. And Deshaun Watson's just been struggling against pressure.
Yeah.
Like, the Giants have only kept it close because their defense has played decent. Like, if they started off a little bit weak against Dak, but really buckled down after those first few possessions, and played really well against Jacksonville. You see, tore up. Blake Bortles just tore up, just picked apart that Patriots defense, which we saw as garbage. And so, if you can play that good against, one of the top 10 quarterbacks in Blake Bortles in the league, you got to have some skill on defense. So I think Deshaun Watson is going to continue to struggle. I think he's going to turn the ball over. And it just feels like I'm calling like a 150-yard, 2-touchdown game for Odell at least.
Nice. I'm all about it as a fantasy owner.
And that's a 3-unit game for me. I made my decision on that one.
3-unit game. Okay. So I would say going into the season, the thing about the Giants that worried me the most was the offensive line and then the defense. While the offensive line has been pretty much trash from what we've seen.
Yeah, they don't exist.
The defense has actually played pretty well. They didn't give up all that much to Jacksonville. And like you said, besides that big play to Tavon Austin, what did they really give up against the Cowboys?
Nothing really after that.
No, pretty much. So, yeah, I guess if I had to take a pick on that one, Houston kind of looks all sorts of confused at this point. I don't know really what they are. I'm hoping for a big game out of OBJ and Hopkins at this point. I don't have a feeling on it betting-wise. So, you're the expert right now in betting. I'm not going to go against you, so I'm just going to have a no play. That's my call.
Nothing.
Okay, my third and final one. I'll get through this one real quick here because it's my first over-under play of the week. The Battle of LA, I'm going under 48 points. The Rams, this is my stat of the day. They're allowing 6.5 points per game right now. They've played the Raiders and the Cardinals, though. It's still impressive. This is still the NFL, end of the day. Chargers haven't been nearly as good on defense as people predicted. They're allowing 29 points per game. If they want to stay in this game, though, they're going to have to play really good on the defensive side of the ball, and that's what I think is going to end up happening. In my opinion, fantasy talk here a little bit, if you have any fringe guys on either of these teams, especially the Chargers, I would probably sit them this week in fantasy, and I would actually consider, depending on who my second quarterback is, I would consider sitting Phillip Rivers. He's thrown 6 touchdowns in the first two games, but man, that Rams pass defense, their pass rush and their corners have just been like awesome so far. Like I said, they're only allowing a touchdown a game at this point. I just think over-under total right here, if you're looking at 7 touchdowns, I think that's too many in this game. I think this is more of like a 27-14 type of game. So I'm going to take the under 48 2 units. Book it.
I'm afraid of that one because these are both good defenses. But in the NFL today, I'm always favoring good offenses, and both these are really good offenses as well.
Yeah.
And I just think the offense is always going to – I know defense wins championships, but it seems like a good offense to me nowadays will beat a good defense at this point. Like, or a great offense will be a great defense. I think they're even. They're leaving the offense-wise. And I'm favoring, I'm actually looking forward to they got great quarterbacks. They got Aqib Talib, who's going to lock down whoever he is. But the smart Marcus Peters was always the knock on him is he's going to get beat deep. This is the game that he's going to get beat deep maybe once, maybe twice. They're going to double move him with Tyrell Williams. I'm going to guess it's going to be because he's the speed guy. One of those speed guys is going to double move him and get beat deep. And then it seems like once a game, or once every 2 weeks, that Phillip Rivers has a wide open guy standing just in the middle of the field. I don't know why for the last 10 years. I expect that to happen once or twice this game, and I think it's going to be because Marcus Peters is just trying to make too many plays.
And that's what he does. I mean, that's kind of his MO. Like, when he has gotten beat, it's because he's making these plays, but that's also why he's led the league in interceptions, I think, 2 out of the last 3 years. So, yeah, it's doable, and I don't want to question you too much because of your hot streak, but I got to go under. That's going to be my play.
All right. So you want me to, I'm going to run through my bonus picks.
Yeah, let's plow through these. We had a lot of listener questions this week.
All right, so my bonus picks here. No units, but bonus picks for you guys just to keep wetting that beak because fuck it, I'm winning.
Hashtag wetting that beak.
We've got, first I'm going Denver, Baltimore. You talked about them. I'm taking the under in this game.
Okay.
43.5 points. I think both these teams are just going to be running the ball, playing really good defense. I don't like a lot of scoring in this game. I'm thinking like 13-7. It's not even going to get close to over. Not even close. It's going to be a slow, sloppy, ugly game that's not even going to touch 30 points.
Nice.
So I'm taking way under 43.5 in this one.
All right, booking the under. Next.
All right, I got Dallas +1 at Seattle. Seattle's just bad. And Dallas goes to Seattle every year, and they play them tougher than anybody in Seattle every year, and typically have beat them. These the last couple of times they played them. I don't know why, but there's nothing about Seattle I like. That offensive line is terrible. That front for the Cowboys is actually really good. We've been seeing Russell Wilson run for his life. They've just purely got nothing. So
Seattle,
if you're giving me a pick 'em,
yeah, Seattle's offensive line has just been atrocious. I know it was against the Bears on Monday night, and Khalil Mack looked like the instant Hall of Famer again in the entire game, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, where are the Cowboys receivers right now? Where's the Cowboys offense outside of Zeke? So that's a safe under, in my opinion, if things hold true.
I didn't take it under. I took the Dallas +1.
Oh, well, I'll take the under.
I took the Cowboys +1.
Go
You
ahead.
take the under. I took the under in the other game. I took Dallas +1 at Seattle. I think they win this game, and I think they win pretty easily. I just don't. Seattle's going to struggle all year.
Got it.
And kind of lastly, I'm going the New England Patriots -6.5 at Detroit. Now listen, they just lost. Do you really want to face Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, weed smoking Josh Gordon, who probably won't play, but who cares? Team fired up going into Matt Patricia, the former coordinator for the Patriots. It's like Belichick's going to come out there and he's going to teach them a lesson. And he's going to be like, hey, you know what? Congratulations, I got you a job. Now I'm going to beat the shit out of you. They win this game by double digits, 14 points or more.
Are you a little nervous, though, that it's just desperation time for the Lions and like Stafford is just going to put that on his shoulders?
I think Stafford could put on a show, but I'm going out here with it's just, you're coming off a loss. You've got Brady. You've got Belichick coaching. They're going to figure some shit out. They're going to watch more tape on Stafford than they have, and it's not going to be good for the Lions. It's not good.
All right, and you got one more present for the listeners?
So, I am a Packers fan, so I never bet on Packers game, and I'm not going to bet on Packers game, but if I did bet on the Packers game and I was going to give a pick, which I'm not giving a pick, I'd probably bet the Packers -3 at the R words. Just saying, but I'm not giving that pick, and I'm not going to bet it, and I would never do it. But if you were to bet it, that's what I would do if I were you.
I honestly thought that the Packers were going to be one of your top 3 picks this week because I saw that spread and I was like, DJ's in. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, me and you were both like, let's just not touch our own team's games. That just gets a little bit hairy.
Not doing it.
All right, let's knock out some fantasy football listener start-sit questions. If you ever have any of these, by all means, hit us up on Twitter at LoadedBox. Let's kick the first one off. Start 2, you've got Marvin Jones versus the Patriots, Quincy Enunwa versus the Browns, Michael Crabtree versus the Dolphins, or Chris Godwin versus the Steelers. You're picking 2.
Picking 2 of these, all right. I'm glad you said that again because I missed it. So in this game, I'm taking. I don't like Enunwa. That Cleveland pass defense is really good. I don't like Crabtree because I hate Flacco. So I'm going Marvin Jones versus a terrible New England defense, terrible New England secondary, which the best quarterback, the second best quarterback in the league, Blake Bortles, just tore apart. And then Chris Godwin, who scored a touchdown in his last 2 games against Pittsburgh. Easily. It's easy. I'm not taking Crabtree. I'm definitely not taking Enunwa in that game. So
yeah.
Jones and Godwin is who I'm taking here.
I'm Jones and Godwin as well. Like you said, New England just got throttled by Scrub and Bortles and his scrub receivers. Stafford and the Lions need this game. And then we just saw the Steelers get tore up last week by Mahomes and Fitzpatrick the week before. And honestly, like those are the top 2 fantasy quarterbacks right now. Who the hell would have saw that coming? Now the Steelers get to play Fitzpatrick. So I'm going to go with Godwin, as I think we talked about one of the people for Tampa Bay cooling down. I think it's going to be Deshaun Jackson. Keep Godwin in the lineup. We're both going to go Jones and Godwin. Next one. You get to pick one flex. I already know your answer to this one.
Yep.
You got Nelson Aguilar versus Indy, Demarius Thomas versus the Ravens, Carlos Hyde versus the Jets, and Philip Lindsay versus the Ravens.
To me, this is Aguilar easily. I know Philip Lindsay's played awesome. Baltimore's run defense is good. Jets' run defense pretty solid. I think that Denver game is going to be low scoring, as I said. That's why I'm going way under. 100% going Aguilar being the number one wide receiver for second best fantasy quarterback in the league. Not second best quarterback. That's Blake Bortles. The second best fantasy quarterback in the league, and Nelson Aguilar.
I like how we just keep going random jab for jab.
And Carson Wentz with Nelson Aguilar.
Yes. I'm likely staying away from the Denver guys as well versus Baltimore. I think it's going to be a close, low-scoring game. I watched that Jets defense last week when they played the Dolphins. They looked pretty solid against the run, so I'm going to stay away from Carlos Hyde this week, especially a Thursday night game as well. That leaves Nelson Aguilar. He didn't do much last week, but man, he was a target monster in week 1. And I think he's going to find some success against that Colts pass defense. Hopefully for fantasy purposes, it's a high-scoring game. I'm going to go Nelson. Let's go on to the next one. Ooh, pick one. This is quarterback debates right here. Deshaun Watson versus the Giants, Tyrod versus the Jets, or Alex Smith versus the Packers.
Not playing that quarterback on Thursday night matchup, so no Tyrod. He's out. I just don't like Deshaun Watson at this point, so it hurts me to say Alex Smith is my choice. That's only because I think Green Bay is going to just be just going to be putting so much on the Redskins that they're going to have to throw. They don't have a running game, number one. Andrea Peterson is not a running game. Number two, the Packers do typically struggle against tight ends. Jordan Reed's a good tight end. And they're going to have to throw the ball. So I'm going to favor Alex Smith in this. And he's got legs. Like, let's not underestimate the fact that he can run. And not as good as Tyrod and Deshaun Watson, but the boy can run. Like that's why he was drafted ahead of Aaron Rodgers, because he was more athletic, is what they said. He's athletic. He really is. Guy can run the ball if he has to. So when he's down 20 points, in the second quarter, he's going to have to throw it and try to keep up. I'm going with Alex Smith here.
Well, like DJ's pick, my quarterback also has legs. However, it is a different selection. I'm going to go with Deshaun Watson. He's coming out of that funk at some time. I don't really like the quarterback playing on Thursday night. I'm not too down on the Jets defense. And I see Green Bay just taking it to Washington. So there goes those options. Yeah, I'm going to go with Deshaun Watson here. I'm a little bit nervous because the Giants defense, like I said, looks a little bit better than what I anticipated. But at some point, we're going to see a glimpse of what we saw early in Deshaun Watson's career last year when he got that opportunity to play. He'll have a game where he's going to throw to and run to. So if those are your other options, I'm going to stick with the guy that you likely took in the 4th round. I'm not turning my back on him yet. I'm going to go Deshaun Watson. Mm-hmm. Let's do one more here real quick. Just in general, do you see Derrick Henry as a running back 1, a running back 2, or at this point just a flex option?
This is such a stupid thing to deal with, but I just think the Titans are dumb at this point. So right now, the way they're using him, he's a flex option. They need to change their strategy here. Deion Lewis is getting way too many carries out of the backfield. That's just not what he is. It didn't work last week at all. They need to employ Derrick Henry like Jordan Howard and Deion Lewis like Tyreek Cohen. They need to do more what the Bears are doing and use Deion Lewis in those situations, but hand Henry the ball more often. Mm-hmm. You drafted this guy, sat him on the bench so he didn't get worn off while DeMarco Murray took it. Then he came out, he had a decent next season. You saved his life for a reason. Use him. This guy is a big, strong, right, really fast running back who can actually catch the ball as well. They're just not using him correctly. They're not using him at all. They're not using either one of these guys correctly. Period. I just think they're using the guys completely wrong. They need to change their entire usage of them too. Deion Lewis needs to touch the ball, but it needs to be 7 to 10 times, and it needs to be through the air or on those jet type of plays or any type of counter type of plays. Anything that's tricking your eyes, and Henry needs to be your main back that's getting the ball going downhill or in more situations on the field, or getting 20, 25 touches. And definitely your goal line guy. They're just not employing those guys correctly.
Oh, I'm with you. Henry's the kind of guy that's going to wear down the opposing team's defense, and that's what the Titans' offense is built to do. And I don't know why they're not seeing it. I just don't know if the game plan just hasn't worked out that way yet for him or what it is. But at this point, yeah, he's probably a flex for me, depending on what other kind of running backs you have on your team. but he hasn't gotten going yet. The Titans seem to be in the same funk that they were in all of last year. You got Blaine Gabbert playing now because Mariota's a little bit dinged up. You got both tackles out. You got Deion Lewis taking snaps away. I'd like to see Derrick Henry actually produce before you have to put him into one of your starting roles. Like I said, though, it's going to end up being dependent on your running back options. But yeah, so far as a Henry owner, you've got to be pretty disappointed. With that, let's wrap up the listener questions there. Do you got anything else you want to add before we send them away?
Hey, you're welcome for all the money I keep winning, you bitches.
TJ is just rolling in that dough. Hopefully you're listening and fattening that bank account a little bit. But thanks again for listening. As always, tweet your questions. If you got any last-minute start sits, we're always on Twitter at LoadedBox. Check out the website. We got weekly articles pumping out all the time, whether it's waiver wire free agents, more against the spread stuff, start them, sit them things. I mean, you ask for it, we got it. That might actually be a lie. Next episode, we'll be back on Sunday to do our Week 3 instant reactions. Find us on iTunes, subscribe, rate, and review. You leave a good review, a funny review. We're going to read it on the podcast. With that, DJ, send us away.
Bye.